Ever found yourself wondering, like really wondering, why we even bother with literature?
It's a question that pops up, doesn't it? Especially when you're wrestling with a book that feels like it's from another planet.
Totally. And trying to explain that to a bunch of teenagers glued to their phones, well, good luck with that.
Hmm.
But hey, there's this new study, right, from Radboud University in the Netherlands, just came out last month, and it dives right into this very question.
Oh, this is interesting. What did they look at?
So, a researcher named Jeroen and Dera, he went and surveyed 214 literature teachers, asking them point blank, why read literature? You know, just trying to get inside their heads.
Getting into the heart of how we educate?
Yeah.
Love it. So what'd they find? What were the big takeaways?
The big one, drumroll please, expanding worldviews. Basically, how we each see the world based on our own little bubbles.
Right, our own experiences. Makes sense, though, doesn't it? Stories have this way of yanking us out of those bubbles, showing us what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes.
Exactly. Like finishing a book and suddenly, boom, the world looks different. Maybe you get why people think the way they do, even if you don't agree, or you feel a connection to a culture you knew nothing about before.
And that's where empathy comes in, right? The study found teachers leaned heavily on that, the whole social benefit of stepping into a character's world.
It's huge, especially these days when everyone's shouting their opinions from the rooftops. Literature, it's like this quiet space to actually feel what someone else is going through.
One teacher even said, and I'm paraphrasing here, literature lets students develop empathy, to see the world through someone else's eyes. Powerful stuff.
Here's the kicker, though. Teachers were all about this empathy thing, but when it came to actually applying that to, becoming a better citizen, being more ethical, crickets.
Now that is interesting. You'd think understanding different perspectives would naturally lead to that, right?
Yeah.
Being more ethical, more engaged.
Exactly. It's like they were almost afraid to connect those dots.
It makes you wonder if there's a bigger picture here. Societal anxieties, maybe, about getting too political, especially in education. But is that really doing students any favors? Shouldn't we be encouraging them to think critically about these things?
Especially since, let's be real, literature has always been this platform for social commentary, for challenging the status quo right from the start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing an agenda, but giving students the tools to analyze, to think for themselves, to grapple with the gray areas, not just the black and white.
And that leads us to another interesting point the study brought up, this struggle to justify reading beyond its practical use. Like, what good is this book going to do me in the real world?
The eternal dilemma. Read to pass the test or read to expand your mind.
Right. It's like we've fallen into this trap of utility. Everything has to have an immediate, measurable purpose.
In a world obsessed with outcomes, it's understandable. But still, where's the joy in that? The simple pleasure of getting lost in a story and expanding your horizons just for the sake of it.
It's like we've forgotten that those useless moments, those times we spend lost in a book, they're actually shaping who we are, how we see the world, how we connect with each other.
And that's something worth valuing, wouldn't you say?
It reminds me of a quote I came across recently. It is what you read when you don't have to that determines what you will be when you can't help it.
Profound, isn't it? It speaks to the transformative power of reading, the way it subtly shapes our minds and values over time.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what other hidden gems are we overlooking when we get stuck in this utility trap? Well, this study actually uncovered something pretty fascinating in that regard. It turns out teachers often underutilize one of the most compelling arguments for reading its incredible ability to boost brain power.
This is where we move beyond the realm of feelings and into the fascinating world of neuroscience. The cognitive benefits of reading are well documented, and yet, according to this research, they're often left untapped in the classroom.
It's like we're sitting on this treasure trove of benefits, but nobody's talking about the really shiny gems. I mean, we're talking improved memory, sharper critical thinking, and even increased emotional intelligence. It's like a mental workout disguised as a good story.
You're absolutely right, and the study itself highlights this, stating that teachers themselves often wish they emphasized the cognitive benefits more. This, despite the fact that many of them personally recognize and value these benefits.
Which begs the question, why the disconnect? Why aren't we shouting from the rooftops about how reading can help us become more empathetic, analytical, and engaged thinkers? Is it simply a matter of not knowing how to effectively communicate these benefits?
It's a complex issue, for sure. Part of it might stem from the challenge of measuring and quantifying these cognitive gains. How do you assess the impact of improved critical thinking or a heightened sense of empathy on a standardized test.
It's like we're so focused on measuring what's easily quantifiable that we neglect to nurture the skills that are arguably even more crucial for navigating life's complexities.
Precisely. And this is where I think we need to reframe the conversation around reading. Instead of viewing it solely as a means to an end path to good grades or successful career, we need to emphasize its inherent value in shaping well-rounded, adaptable individuals.
It's about fostering a love of learning, a curiosity about the world, and the cognitive agility to grapple with complex ideas and perspectives.
Exactly. And that's where those cognitive benefits come into play. Improved memory allows us to retain information and make connections across different texts and experiences. Sharper critical thinking equips us to analyze information, identify biases, and form our own informed opinions. And heightened emotional intelligence allows us to navigate social situations with greater empathy and understanding.
It's like building a mental gym for your brain. And just like any muscle in our body, our brains need exercise and stimulation to stay sharp and adaptable, especially as we age.
Absolutely. Studies have shown that engaging with literature, deciphering complex language, following multiple storylines, and immersing ourselves in different perspectives can actually help to ward off cognitive decline as we get older.
It's like cross-training for your brain. You're flexing those mental muscles, forging new neural pathways, and essentially future-proofing your cognitive abilities.
And it's never too late to start. Reading isn't just for young minds. It's a lifelong pursuit that can enrich our understanding of the world and ourselves.
So we've got this incredible tool for personal growth, for boosting brain power, for fostering empathy and expanding our worldviews. But how do we effectively communicate those benefits, especially in a world that often prioritizes instant gratification and tangible outcomes?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that the researchers behind this study were clearly grappling with as well. Because even though teachers themselves recognize the value of these often overlooked benefits, they struggle to effectively incorporate them into their own teaching practices.
It's like having this amazing gift to share, but not knowing how to wrap it in a way that truly resonates. And it's not just about convincing students, is it? It's about reframing the narrative around reading for everyone.
You're absolutely right. It's about reigniting that love of reading, that intrinsic motivation that goes beyond simply checking a box or meeting an external requirement.
And it sounds like, based on this research, teachers are hungry for ways to do just that. Remember that part of the study where they were asked about the legitimations they wish they used more?
Ah, yes, the untapped potential, the hidden gems of persuasion that even seasoned educators were yearning to utilize.
Exactly. And guess what? The two most common responses both touched on the incredible yet often underestimated cognitive benefits of reading. It seems even those who dedicate their lives to literature are searching for ways to better communicate its power. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, we've lost that sense of awe of getting totally pulled into a different world.
Just like we've traded wonder for practicality.
Exactly. But getting back to those teachers, you said they wanted to emphasize the cognitive benefits more.
Yeah, two things jumped out. How reading can actually help prevent our brains from, well, slowing down as we age. And then, this might resonate with everyone who's got a million tabs open in their brain right now, how it improves concentration.
It's like we're all drowning in information these days, right? Maybe books are the life raft we didn't realize we needed.
There you go.
Hmm.
And you know what else surprised me? How many teachers wish they talked more about reading and, get this, political awareness.
Whoa, no, that's interesting. Especially now when things feel so divided, like everyone's retreating to their corners.
It's like we've forgotten how to have a good conversation, to disagree respectfully. And maybe, just maybe, literature can help us relearn that.
By showing us those different sides, those gray areas we were talking about before. But it's more than just understanding different viewpoints, right? It's about having the mental tools to actually process all this information thrown at us.
To think for ourselves, not just parrot what we see on a screen. And that's what reading cultivates, that ability to engage critically. But somewhere along the line, it feels like we stopped talking about that.
We got so caught up in the what you have to read this many books, get this grade, that the why got lost in the shuffle.
It's like we've forgotten the sheer joy of it, the thrill of a good plot twist, the way a well-written sentence can make you see the world differently.
Those are the things that stick with you long after you've closed the book. So how do we get back to that? Back to celebrating the power of stories?
Honestly, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just for educators to figure out. It's on all of us, I think, to rediscover that love of reading.
To remember that sometimes the most useful thing we can do is get completely lost in something useless.
Now, wouldn't that be a story worth telling?
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll let you get back to your own literary adventures. Until next time, happy reading, everyone.